I noticed the weird looks people were giving me as I walked down the hall. A few guys were even smiling and winking at me. Weird. Something was definitely wrong. I just hadn't figured it out yet. Well, whatever. I'll just pack up and go home. Before I could quietly wriggle myself out of the school's massive doors, Beck approached me.
Hey, beautiful.
He said while spinning around me, a gesture that I believed he thought was romantic.
Want to go out on a date with me tonight? We'd get pizza and ice cream and then eat them all up in my car while looking at the stars.
Beck wasn't all that, but he wasn't that bad either. Besides, I didn't have anything interesting to do tonight, so I decided to accept.
Dude, is that the best you can do?
Jake interrupted with a grin on his face.
Bro, don't kill my shine.
Jake ignored him and turned to me. He held my hand and kissed it.
Kat, I have a big-ass cinema in my house with chefs and cleaners obeying my every command. Spend the night with me instead, and I can assure you we'll have the whole night to ourselves. No one will dare interrupt us.
Huh? Why in the world would Jake, the school player, ever think that I'll want to go out with him? He may have been a millionaire, but he knew I hated him. While I was still trying to understand what was going on, 2 more guys arrived and asked me on a date again. They started shouting at each other, and in seconds, they were all fighting. What the heck was happening? One of my oldest friends, Grissom, walked up to me, and I prayed to God that he wasn't coming to do the same thing. He walked up to me and didn't even say a word. Instead, he turned me around, removed a paper that was stuck on my back, handed it to me, and walked away. I held the massive paper that had been previously stuck on my back and read, "I'm open to anything." I turned red as I held it up to my face. So this is why these guys were bugging me. I turned back and used my eyes to scan the halls in search of the culprit. She stood at the end of the hall in all her glory, smirking and watching the events that she had put in motion unfold. I walked up to her, then angrily pushed the paper down her throat. She didn't see this coming, so she stood confused as she tried to remove the paper from her mouth. "You'll pay for this, Sam." Even with a mouthful of paper, her smirk was still visible. It was almost as if she was telling me to bring it on, and my reply to that was, "Yes, I plan to." Hello, my name is Kat, and this is my story, revealing how I escaped bullying and antagonization in high school. But believe me, it doesn't end in a way that you'd ever expect. Be a dear and like this video before continuing with the story. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss all the amazing stories that we have lined up for you. I think my face must have still been red when I got home because my mother immediately noticed that something was wrong.
Honey, are you okay? Tell me what the problem is.
There's no problem, Ma. Nothing is wrong.
Come on, Katerina, you're visibly upset.
Ma, I just want to eat something and go to bed, okay? I need to rest a little bit so I can wake up at night and read. We have a big test tomorrow.
Sure, Catty, just know that I'm always here for you and you can tell me absolutely anything.
Of course, Ma. Thanks. Wait a minute. Why did that show of concern sound a bit sketchy? I spotted my mom's phone on the dining table and dived towards it. She noticed where I was looking and tried to block me, but I was too fast for her. Once the phone was in my hand, I clicked the home button. To my surprise, the first thing I saw was a picture of me in school with the paper stuck on my back. Ah, Ma!
Don't, me. You don't tell me anything about your life. I have to find out from your classmates?
Well, that's because it wasn't true, Ma. It was a prank.
Oh, so you're still,
Oh, yes, I am, Ma. We don't need to talk about it. Who sent you this picture, though?
A classmate of yours. Her name is Sam?
Okay, Sam had gone too far this time. Sam and I had always been in kind of an invisible competition. This was because people always compared us to each other. Not only did we look alike, we always had the same grades and were both equally popular. It became like a Beyoncé and Rihanna thing. Our fans were always wondering who did one thing better than the other. Who wore it best? Who danced best? Who dates the best guys? Who has better friends? Who has richer parents? Who did this and who did that? We hardly ever spoke to each other, but we knew what was going on behind the scenes. I thought that we'd go on ignoring each other until we graduated, but Sam suddenly started pranking me. She put gum on my chair when I'm not looking and pretend to be unaware of the situation when I start looking for the culprit. A lot of my clothes were destroyed as a result of this prank. She'd tear my books, put spiders in my shoes, put rats in my locker and school bag, hide my outfit before gym session was over, and so many other things. I tried my best to ignore her, hoping she'd eventually stop, but the pranks just kept getting worse with each passing day. I had to stop her in her tracks before the whole thing could blow out of proportion, and I could only do this by playing the winning prank. I know she thought she was doing a good job with her pranks, but everyone knows that you shouldn't prank psychos, simply because you can't beat them at a game they invented. I'm not a psycho though. Wink. It was a hot Wednesday afternoon, and we just finished cheerleading practice. With an evil smile on my face, I watched Sam enter the bathroom to clean up. A few minutes later, we heard a shriek and all rushed to the bathroom to see what was wrong. The sight was even more amusing than I had initially imagined. Sam's long, beautiful hair was all gone. I mean, who still falls for the old Nair and shampoo trick in this century? Well, she did, but I pretended to be as shocked as everyone else. We both shared a look, and it was obvious that she knew I did it, but she didn't say anything. I wasn't done with her, though. I had more pranks up my sleeve. I'd put gum in her hair when she's sleeping, fill her bags with stones instead of books, and much more. The next day, Sam came to school with a wig which I accidentally removed while walking past her in class. The guys who were still unaware of Sam's baldness at this time were astounded. They started laughing and throwing spitballs on her bald head, and eventually slapping it, despite the fact that I was begging them to stop as it was enough. Sam left school immediately, crying and shaking, leaving her wig on the floor. Feeling bad, I picked up the wig and followed her, hoping to apologize, but what I saw in her house made me even more angry. Sam was always begging about her mansion and rich parents. She insulted everyone that she felt was below her and always called me poor because I came from a middle-class family. But I had followed her home for the first time, and the home that was in front of me was a trailer. I was so mad. The next day, I gave Sam a grand welcome and apologized to her, giving her back her wig and telling her to use it instead of the new one she came with, because the old one made her look prettier. Sam went to the bathroom and came back with the old wig, smiling and thanking me, but she was in for a surprise. A few minutes later, tiny ants started crawling out of the wig, filling Sam's face. She tried to remove the wig, but it was stuck on her head. It couldn't come off. She tried to run to the bathroom, but she couldn't stand up. She was glued to her seat. She started scratching her face profusely, injuring her whole face. She struggled to stand up from her seat, but ended up tearing her skirt in the process, exposing her undies. She managed to run to the bathroom without her skirt, while the whole class laughed and cheered. I just sat at my desk in the corner, silently watching the whole thing unfold. Sam was a bully. She had hurt everyone in the class one way or the other, so everyone was glad that she was finally getting a taste of her own poison. Unfortunately, an ambulance had to be called because Sam had scratched her face badly. The ants left bumps all over her face, and only doctors could carefully remove the wig from her head. I went to Sam's hospital room to gloat, but she told me to get out. I refused, and since no staff was around, no one could chase me out. I explained that I knew about her trailer house, and that if she didn't want the whole school to find out, she'd have to become my slave and do whatever I wanted. She was shocked and scared, but had no other choice than to accept. This was how Sam became my personal guinea pig. Unfortunately, she gave up after a month, making me mad. I decided to sneak to her trailer and take pictures to show the whole school, but on getting there, I noticed that Sam's mother was mentally unwell, and Sam was the one paying her bills. They noticed me perched on the window and invited me in. Sam explained that she was only mean and pretending to be rich because the school would kick her out if they knew that she was the breadwinner of the family. She was a famous YouTuber and had enough money to buy a mansion, but she couldn't because all her millions were going into giving her mother the best treatment possible. She had to lie about being rich and be mean to people because that was what was selling her brand and merchandise on YouTube. Running around being my slave stopped her from recording YouTube videos, so she was quitting the school and focusing on YouTube. I left without uttering a word, mostly because I didn't know what to say. On getting home, I decided to open up to my mother about everything and ask her what the best action to take was. My mother was angry with me at first, but she was also glad that I was remorseful, so she advised me to apologize to Sam and keep her secret. The next day, I walked up to Sam and apologized. To my utter disbelief, she rejected my apology and gave me a condition to earn her forgiveness. "What is it?" I asked, rolling my eyes.
First of all, you're going to use shaving cream on your hair so you'd have a bald, shining head, just like mine.
You're kidding, right?
You wish. And that's not even all.
There's no way I'm gonna do that. She ignored me and kept on talking.
After shaving your head, you're going to walk around the school in your undies while showcasing your bald head. This is how you can make up for my embarrassment.
I laughed in her face and left. When I got home, I told my mom about the conditions that Sam had given me, and she still encouraged me to do it. I agreed. While my mother was shaving my head, something occurred to me. Ma, what if this is still a prank that I'm falling for? What if Sam has a more embarrassing prank up her sleeve?
Well, we'll always have in mind that you tried to be the bigger person.
I walked out from Mom's car the next day with the school t-shirt, my bald head, my undies, and my school shoes. Everyone was so shocked, it looked like their eyes were about to fall off. Sam looked even more shocked. She obviously didn't think that I was actually going to go through with it. Everyone started insulting me and taking pictures, though. It was so bad that I didn't even know when I started crying. When Sam noticed this, she removed her wig and skirt and joined me. This made me feel better, and we shortly started playing and taking pictures for social media. This made a lot of other students join in the fun. It started with Grissom. He took off his trousers and left just his boxers on. He took pictures with us and posted it on Instagram with the hashtag School Underwear Day. Next thing, so many other people, boys and girls included, took off their skirts and trousers and joined in the fun. The hashtag quickly went viral. We took many pictures and videos and made one of our greatest high school memories. Because of the ruckus in school and the virality of our social media videos, which was an embarrassment to the school, we were found out. A lot of us got suspended while others had to face detention. I and Sam were among the unlucky few who were suspended. It was fine though. After all, we were the ones who set everything in motion. Sam used this free time to help me start a really successful YouTube channel. She taught me the tricks behind making interesting and viral YouTube videos, and it didn't take long for my channel to really pick up. Sam's mother recovered, and they finally got a better house to move into. Grissom confessed his love for me, and I told him I felt the same way. Sam, my new best friend, Grissom, my darling boyfriend, and I all graduated high school together and remained best friends for life. Were you ever able to get back at someone who bullied you in the past? How did this situation end up? Tell us in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!
Hey, Peekaboo! Have your bath quickly before someone comes.
We had our bath and dried ourselves as fast as we could before running out of the restaurant. Once we got to a safe zone, we started laughing, so happy that we hadn't been caught this time. The last time was so embarrassing. The security man didn't even let us finish up. Thankfully, he had the courtesy to call a female security officer who was even more ruthless than he was. We were forced to put our clothes back on despite the fact that our bodies were still filled with soap. We bowed our heads as we were dragged out of the restaurant, our faces still covered in soap lather. After that, we avoided taking baths for a couple of weeks till today. We smell so fresh, I giggled. This was our life now, sleeping under egg cartons and sneaking into neat restaurants when no one was looking to have our baths. It wasn't always like this, though. We used to be quite comfortable. My dad was a lawyer, and his company rewarded him greatly. Unfortunately, he was hit by a stroke and we lost him. My mother couldn't pay for our house and our survival with the tiny revenue we got from her shop, and just like that, we started sleeping in my mom's shop. But when her landlord noticed this, he sent her packing also. We had no option but to move to the streets after trying the shelters and figuring out that they were all filled up.
Earth to Peekaboo!
My mom said, releasing me from my sad thoughts.
Guess what?
She asked. What? I asked, rubbing my bare foot on the tarred floor.
I got a real job! Ah!
We both screamed and jumped around.
But that's not even all.
There's more?
Yes, there's more.
Well, don't keep me waiting. What is it? I squealed.
This job comes with free accommodation. Ah!
We squealed again. Can we leave now?
Immediately.
My mom squealed. I packed the little I had, which was almost nothing, and followed my mother, kissing the egg carton that had kept me warm for a year goodbye. As we ran off, I noticed that some homeless people there were giving us the bad eye. They were obviously not happy that our lives had become better. I felt bad for them, but we obviously couldn't take them along with us. I waved at them, but no one waved back. I tried waving again, but my mother dragged me off. We got to our new quarters, and there were just 2 tiny beds in the room. It was more than comfortable for us. Better than sleeping on the hard street floor. Mom resumed her cleaning duties at the law firm that employed her the next day, while I stayed at home because I couldn't go to school. I spent my days reading all the books that I could lay my hands on in the library, and sometimes I helped my mother with her cleaning work. This was our life for 4 years until one day, when my mom mistakenly bumped into a lawyer while cleaning.
I'm so sorry, sir.
The man turned towards her angrily. Her dirty cleaning water had stained his white trousers. Once he looked at her face, his expression turned to surprise and then back to anger.
Mrs. Peekaboo?
I'm sorry, sir. Do I know you?
Do you know me?
He laughed.
Where's your daughter, Peekaboo Jr.?
Me! I ran towards him and he lifted me up. Mr. Samaritan! I remembered, hugging him.
Wow, you've grown so big, P. Jr. How old are you now?
10. My mother's eyes widened when she finally recognized him.
Oh my God, Mr. Samaritan!
He hugged her too and she burst into tears. Mr. Samaritan was one of Dad's oldest friends. He had an accident around the same time my dad suffered the stroke attack, so he was admitted and out of it during the burial. When we started living on the streets, we sold all our gadgets to survive and no one could contact us anymore.
Can you tell me why you're cleaning floors?
He asked my mom angrily. My mom just shook her head, tears streaming down her face.
Didn't your husband leave you anything? Pack you and PJ Jr.'s bags immediately and follow me. You know what? Just leave them. Leave them where they are. I'll have them thrown out. Follow me.
If you think anything is going to happen between Mr. Samaritan and my mom, tell us in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you are enjoying the story so far.
What about my boss? I have to resign respectfully.
He is my friend. I'll talk to him and thank him for his help. Don't worry about that.
Mr. Samaritan literally dragged us into his limo. He gave my mom a job in his company and a house in his workers' quarters. I was also enrolled in a great school immediately, and somehow I was able to catch up to my grade mates because I'd been reading so much. It turned out that Mr. Samaritan's wife had also died a few years ago due to some kind of heart disease, and this was around the same time that my father died. My mom and Mr. Samaritan had similar experiences, so they had a lot to bond over, and sooner rather than later, they fell in love and got married. When it was time for their honeymoon, I was told that it was my duty to babysit my new stepsister, Happy. Happy never liked me, no matter how hard I tried. I decided to stop trying, and we just never spoke anymore. I was freaked out that they expected me to babysit that nuisance, so in secret, I decided to hire a nanny that would do the babysitting for me once my parents were gone. Somehow, though, my mom figured out what I was up to and stopped me. She explained that this was my time to bond with Happy, and I should make good use of it because Happy would be my sister forever. Although the thought of having Happy as a sister forever brought chills down my spine, I decided to give it a shot. Maybe she wasn't that bad after all. I was wrong. She was the worst. Do you know what this human did? She cut her own hair and burnt all her clothes. She set the house on fire and broke her own nose. News got to my mom and my stepdad, so they had to cancel the honeymoon and rush back home immediately. I explained that I didn't even touch Happy for a second, but Happy kept screaming that I was the evil witch who burned down her closet, cut her hair while she was sleeping, and broke her nose because she refused to give me her allowance. What? Mr. Samaritan took my side and said he believed me. He knew his daughter well enough to know when she was just throwing a tantrum. He angrily made the decision to send Happy to boarding school for being such a nuisance, but I pleaded for her and he accepted. I guess this made Happy feel guilty because she started being kind to me and somehow we became friends. We all lived happily for 2 years until things started changing. My school went for an excursion in Paris. While we were walking on the road, I thought I saw my dad for a second, but I knew that it wasn't possible. When we entered the art gallery, I saw him again, clear as day. So I walked up to him and tugged on his shirt a little. Dad? I saw how the expressions changed on his face. From recognition to pain, to utter disbelief to anger, and then to pretense. I knew he was my dad, and I knew I recognized him. I may have been just 12, but I definitely wasn't stupid.
I'm sorry, but I think you may be mistaking me for someone else, kiddo. I'm not your dad.
He quickly walked off, but not before I took some pictures of him with my camera. Kiddo, I tried figuring out why that word gave me goosebumps. It reminded me of my dad. Only my dad called me kiddo. It was him. He was alive. I left the excursion and followed him into an alleyway where he started arguing with a strange woman in French. Click, click. I took more photos of them, but they noticed me and started chasing me. I ran straight into some thugs, and the thugs tried to kidnap me, but my dad quickly saved me by beating them up as I ran away. When I got to the art studio, they were already leaving. I ran towards the school bus, and luckily the people on the street noticed me and started shouting for the bus to stop. Seeing that I was screaming and running towards it, the bus stopped and I was glad that I was safe. As I looked at the road from the back of the bus, I saw my dad standing and staring at me. I waved goodbye and he waved back before turning and walking away. When I got home, I didn't tell anyone what happened to Paris. A couple of weeks later, Mr. Samaritan's supposedly dead wife walked right through the front door and announced,
I'm back.
She was surprised to see me and my mother in the house, so she asked,
Who are you? And what are you doing in my house?
before fainting. We called our family doctor to examine her, and he said that she was perfectly fine. When she woke up, she claimed that she had amnesia and couldn't remember anything that had happened for the past 7 years after her supposed death. My mom, who was unnecessarily kind, decided to let their former Mrs. Samaritan stay in the same house with us. I warned her, explaining that this was a bad idea, but she simply shunned me, telling me to think less about myself sometimes and more of other people, like my stepsister Happy. Happy was elated when she realized that her mother was alive after all. I agreed to let her mother stay with us when I saw how happy it made her. One day at dinner, the sad topic of my dead dad came up. My stepdad talked about how great my dad was. According to him, my dad was selfless, resourceful, kind-hearted, and the best man he ever encountered. This made his former wife burst into laughter. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I just remembered something funny. So sorry for interrupting. I'll just be in my room upstairs. Happy's mother's reaction to her ex-husband praising my dad was questionable, so I finally decided to tell my parents about what happened to Paris. I went to my secret spot in my room to get my camera, but to my surprise, it was empty. My camera had been stolen. I knew exactly who was responsible for this. Before I could confront her, my room door opened and she walked in.
Oh, what are you looking for, sweetie?
You know exactly what I'm looking for because you took it. Where's my camera? She just laughed. That's why you came here, isn't it? My dad sent you to get rid of the pictures? Why? Why did you both fake your deaths and disappear, leaving your children and partners behind? Why?
Because we were in love, you fool. And everything was fine until you came to Paris and saw us, spoiling everything. I should have you beaten right now,
She said as she came closer to me. What about Happy? What about me?
Who cares about you two? One parent was enough. Whatever. I've gotten what I came for, so I can leave,
She said as she bounced towards the door. To her surprise, immediately she opened the door, my mom gave her a terrible slap, subsequently jumping on her, making them get into a scuffle. Happy just stood there crying. Mr. Samaritan managed to separate the two women. He made his ex-wife sign divorce papers to make his marriage to my mother legal. Seeing how angry everyone was, she signed the papers. After this, he sent her out of the house and told her to never return. We were all saddened by the realization. Everyone was visibly hurt. Neither my dad nor Happy's mother died. They both faked their death and ran away together. She left her husband, who loved her so much, and her newborn daughter Happy all alone. She didn't even care till this very day. My dad's actions were much worse. All this time we were suffering, living on the streets, eating scraps, cleaning after other people, and he was living his best life in Paris. He didn't bother leaving anything for us before he eloped. He just left, not caring about how we'd survive. We all sat at the dining table, lost in thought. Me and Happy's eyes locked for a second, and it was like we were thinking the same thing. What did we do to deserve such hate and hurt?
I think we should watch a movie.
Mr. Samaritan suggested, and we all agreed. He played The Fault in Our Stars, and we watched it while eating popcorn, pizza, and ice cream. We cried profusely, but deep down we knew that we weren't crying because of the movie. We were just letting the hurt out. A few days later, we got a mail package from Paris. It contained 3 letters of apology written by my dad. One for Mr. Samaritan, one for Mom, and one for me. Attached to me and Mom's letters were checks of $500 million each. Hearing from him made me cry even more. After some time, we were finally able to get over the pain, realizing that we didn't need these people anymore. They'd not been a part of our lives for 7 whole years, and we'd been happy. We had a new family now, and we loved each other more than anything else in the world. The experience brought our family together. Happy and I got closer, and the love bond between Mr. Samaritan and my mom grew stronger. Remember that you are worthy of love. It doesn't matter what you've gone through or who has hurt you in the past. You can still find love, happiness, and friendship again. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to our channel, turn on post notifications, and tell us if you've ever been hurt by someone you loved in the past, including how you got over it. You might be helping a random stranger out. See you in our next video. Bye.
As I ran towards the goal, dribbling the football as I went, I suddenly noticed my mom watching from the sidelines. My heart filled with joy. It wasn't often that my mom managed to make it to one of my games. You see, she has a very busy job as an accountant with a big city firm. She works long hours and usually isn't able to watch me play. The referee blew the whistle to signal the end of the match. I shook hands with the players from the opposing team and went to join my mom. "Mom, I can't believe you made it. I'm so happy you're here." But instead of giving me the smile I expected, my mom just scowled at me.
I'm so disappointed in you, Luke. You played terribly.
I was so shocked and confused. I couldn't understand why my mom was being so rude. But little did I know, things were only going to get worse. Just wait till you see what she did at the end of this story. I got into my mom's car and we drove home in silence. I was upset that she had criticized my playing, and she didn't seem in the mood for chatting either. When we arrived home, I took off my coat and was about to head upstairs to my room when my mom came into the kitchen.
Where do you think you're going?
Up to my room. I'm going to play a video game with Ben.
That will have to wait. You have chores to do first.
Aw, Mom, can't I do them later? I promised Ben I would play as soon as I got home.
No, you can't. I'm sick of you spending all your time on that computer. Now you can start on the dishes, and then you can sweep the leaves up in the garden.
I sighed and began to wash the dishes.
What are you doing? Look, you've left food stains on the plate. Can't you do anything right?
What has gotten into my mom tonight? She must have had a really bad day at work. She isn't usually this mean. I finished off the dishes and went outside to the garden. It took me ages to gather up all the leaves, but eventually I was finished and went back into the house. I picked up my phone and saw there was a text from Ben.
Hey man, what happened? Thought we were gonna play.
I started to reply. Sorry, my mom made me do chores.
Okay, cool. Listen, do you want to come over to my house tonight? I'm having a party for my birthday.
Yeah, great, I'll be there. I put the phone down and went to see my mom. I've finished cleaning up the leaves, Mom. I was expecting her to thank me, but instead she just kept on complaining and being mean to me. Mom, what's wrong with you? Is this your hormones or something? I mean, is it that time of the month?
There is nothing wrong with me. It's you, Luke. You're always so selfish. You never think of anyone but yourself.
I couldn't believe what she was saying. I was the least selfish person you could ever meet. Everyone always told me how kind and considerate I was. I don't think you're being very fair, Mom.
You see? Look how cheeky you are being to me now. Well, I'm not going to stand for this behavior from you. That's it. You're grounded.
What? No, you can't do that.
Just watch me.
But I'm going to Ben's house tonight. It's his birthday party.
Well, I'm sorry. You'll just have to miss it. Now go to your room.
I was so annoyed with my mom, but I knew that there was no use trying to argue with her. She never changed her mind once it was made up. I went upstairs to my room and sat on my bed. What did I do? I don't deserve to be treated like this. I'm beginning to think she isn't even my mom. My mom would never normally treat me like this. She's never rude and mean. Why has she suddenly started acting this way? The more I thought about it, the more I began to be suspicious that there was something else going on with my mom. Something was making her act differently towards me, and I was determined to find out what it was. So I decided that I would do some snooping. The following morning, my mom left early to go to her job at the accountant's. I watched her drive away, and when she was safely out of sight, I went upstairs to her bedroom and began to look through her things. Everything seemed pretty normal until I noticed something strange on her bedside table. It was a man's beard razor and shaving cream, and there was a disposable telephone. I was so shocked. So that's what's been going on. My mom is seeing someone. But who? And why would this new boyfriend make my mom act so differently towards me? You see, I've never known my father. Mom told me that he's some loser who doesn't deserve our time. And to be honest, I've never been bothered to find out more about him. I've always been happy with it just being me and my mom. She's enough for me. But now it looks like I might have a new father. But if it means that she's going to treat me so badly, then I don't think I want her to have this new boyfriend. That night when my mom came home from work, I didn't mention anything to her about finding the razor and other stuff. I pretended as though everything was fine. And Mom wasn't too mean to me, so we had a reasonably good night. I had probably only been asleep for about an hour when something woke me. What's that? I listened again. There was a noise coming from my mom's bedroom. Aha, the secret boyfriend must be there. I'll burst in on them and confront them here and now. I climbed out of bed and crept quietly towards my mom's room. I was scared, but I opened the door and turned on the light. Ha! I caught you The sight before me made me freeze mid-sentence. Instead of seeing my mom with her new boyfriend, there was just a man changing into some pajamas. But that wasn't what had shocked me. The strange thing was, the man was wearing my mom's clothes. Who are you? What did you do with my mom? Why are you wearing her clothes? The man just sighed.
Luke, I'm your father.
I had no idea what was going on. What do you mean you're my father? My father ran away and left us when I was very young. The man sat down on my mom's bed.
Come and sit here with me and I will explain everything.
No, I'm not coming anywhere near you. Just tell me what's going on and what you've done with my mom. The man looked at me and sighed.
Luke, your mom and I were very young when we had you. At first everything was fine, but after a while it all became too much for your mom. She started going off the rails and eventually she became really crazy. I tried my best to help her, but there was nothing I could do. Eventually, she ended up being assigned to a psychiatric asylum. That's where she is now.
My head was literally spinning with what he was telling me. Can this really be true?
I was left with a baby to look after, but that wasn't the real problem. I had no money and I had no idea what I was going to do to support you. That was until I saw an ad from a big company. They were looking for a female accountant. I was an accountant, but of course I wasn't female. Then I came up with the idea that I should dress up as a woman and apply for the job. I went for the interview and I got the job. So from that moment on, I spent all my life pretending I was a woman. I had to pretend to you that I was your mom. That's why I told you that your dad had left us. I needed for you to believe that I was your mom because I couldn't risk you spilling the beans. I need my job to support us. If my company found out that I was a man, I would lose my job and we would be poor. I couldn't let that happen.
I was shocked, but something inside me was telling me that this man was telling the truth. Oh, Dad, you could have told me the truth. I would have kept your secret.
Now maybe, but when you were 3, 4 years old, you might have slipped up by accident. I couldn't expect a young child to keep a secret.
I could see that my dad had a good point, and I knew that he had only done what he had done so that he could provide me with a good life. Well, now that I do know, you can stop being a woman, at least when you're not at work.
Well, that will be a relief. It's not easy pretending to be something I'm not all the time. You're not angry with me, are you?
No, of course I'm not. I loved you when I thought you were my mom, and I still love you now that I know you're my dad. I ran over to my dad and gave him a big hug. It's good to have you back, Dad.
It's good to be myself, son.
But then a thought crossed my mind. Dad?
Yes, Luke?
Can I ask you something?
Of course, anything.
Why were you acting so mean to me before? My dad sighed again.
I'm sorry about that, Luke. You see, I had heard your mom might be getting released from the psychiatric asylum. I was really stressed out because I was worried that if your mom came back here and found out about all the lies I had told, she might want to take you away from me. I was so worried I might never see you again. But I shouldn't have taken it out on you, though. I'm so sorry.
Yes, I can understand how concerned you would be. What are you going to do?
I don't...
Suddenly, we heard the sound of the front door opening.
I'm home.
My dad looked at me and his face fell. My dad ran out of the bedroom and down the stairs with me following closely behind him. When we reached the bottom, I saw a woman standing at the doorway. My face fell in shock. Is this my...
Hi, honey.
The woman ran towards me and put her arms around me. I didn't know what to do. I just stood there as she hugged me. My dad looked terrified.
I've missed you so much, Luke. We have so many memories to make up for.
I looked at my mom and gave her a weak smile. I've missed you too, Mom. I said it because I had to, but it wasn't true. How could I miss someone that I never knew existed? I had had a mom, even though I now knew that it was actually my dad. But all my life, it was my dad that I had missed. He had been the one that I had longed for. It was just all so mixed up and confusing. I didn't know what was going to happen next. Will my dad tell my mom the truth? I suppose he will have to, otherwise he'll lose his job. That was 6 months ago. My dad did end up telling my mom what he had done. She was furious with him.
How could you have lied to Luke for so long? So you're telling me that he hasn't been missing me because he thought that you were me?
I'm sorry. I only did it so that I could get a decent job.
I don't care. You could have found another job, couldn't you?
Not one that paid as well as this one.
So you only care about being rich. You don't care about me at all, do you?
It didn't matter how much my dad tried to explain, my mom wouldn't forgive him for what he had done. She ended up calling the child care officers and reporting my dad to them. He was taken into custody. I lived with my mom for about a month, but it soon became apparent that she was still a little crazy. The child care officers paid daily visits to our house to check on how my mom was doing. Once they realized that she still wasn't quite there, they recommended that she go back to the psychiatric asylum for further treatment and that I should be put into a foster home. That's where I'm living now. The people are fine, but they're not my family. I'll soon be 18, and when I am, I'll be able to leave here. It's actually going to work out well, as it'll be at the same time as my dad is due to be released from custody. I should be happy that I'm going to be able to live with my dad again, but I'm not. I'm still really confused. I just want my mom again. Well, not my biological mom, I mean the mom that brought me up. The one that I loved for so long, but she's never coming back. Because how can she, when she never really existed in the first place?